Today, we're going over some of the biggest what-ifs in Arizona State history. Not to spoil number one, but it's what if Erik Ruby and Anthony Totri didn't get coffee together like 2.5 years ago?
Happy Tuesday night and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show. Of course, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Make sure you join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. I'm Anthony Totri, joined as always by my strawberry swirl girl, of course, Erik Ruby. We've got the woolly mammoth making all the magic happen on this lovely Tuesday evening. A special episode of the PHNX Sun Devils show, our biggest what ifs in Arizona State history. You kicked it off the top, Erik, with what if you and I never grabbed coffee?
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Because that is probably the biggest, weirdest domino in my life. Besides, what if I didn't swipe right on my wife on Bumble, which was never. No, honestly, the biggest what if is what if she didn't swipe right on me? I was always going to swipe right on her, but
there you go.
There was a little thinking going on when she saw mine, but I genuinely do not know where my life would be if you and I did not get coffee however long ago. I think it was about 2 years ago now. About right now.
Time flies, man.
2 years ago. Yeah, it's nuts. And now you hate me. You got to deal with me every single day. I mean, that's the biggest what if in your life, but in a negative way.
Literally be like, what if I didn't have to deal with Erik Ruby every single day?
Yeah.
We'll never know.
No, we won't. You're stuck with me, bud.
I know. Oh, goodness. Guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Again, we do have our top 10 biggest what ifs in Arizona State Sun Devil history. And I mean, why waste any more time? Honestly, let's just dive right into it with number 10. This is an interesting one here, Erik. What if Arizona State hired Coach Prime instead of Kenny Dillingham? Michael Crow said at the time that he didn't think really Deion was ready for that position. We know what has transpired since then. But imagine Deion Sanders coaching in Tempe.
Man, this is such a fascinating one.
Yeah.
Because, listen, would not trade Kenny Dillingham for the world right now. Absolute home run hire, maybe one of the best hires in sports hiring history was getting Kenny Dillingham the job here at Arizona State. And I know we like to make fun of Colorado. I know that Colorado fans are very easy to push their buttons. That being said, unequivocally, Arizona State would have been in a better spot than they were with Herm Edwards if they hired Deion Sanders.
100%.
I mean, what has happened at Colorado is miraculous, to say the least. I mean, they have revitalized that program. He's been there longer than I expected. There are no other rumors of him leaving. It does feel like he's building there. And I was wrong about that. I was genuinely wrong about that. Now, how long does that play out? And we're going to see him without Shedeur and without Travis, and that's going to kind of be a big measuring point for him. And it's still early on, but 10 years down the line, there's a chance that summer of hiring for Colorado and for Arizona State, help propel both of those schools from, bottom to top tier teams in college football. Now, I'm more confident in Arizona State. This is not one of those what ifs that really stings, but it is a fascinating timeline to go down because, listen, Boulder's a beautiful place. It's not hard to sell somebody on going to Boulder, Colorado. It's the same way in Tempe, man. Like if Dion had Tempe to sell, I can find it hard to believe that he wouldn't have been able to at least replicate, if not, surpass some of the success that he's had in Colorado.
Yeah, and another big point of that, right, is you look at the success that he had last season for Colorado. It was because of the two guys he brought in, right? Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Say what you want about either one of those guys. Shedeur was a above average college football quarterback, and Travis Hunter was the Heisman Trophy winner last season. You're talking about those two players more than likely following Coach Prime to Arizona State. Yes, I'm with you. I would not trade Kenny Dillingham for Deion Sanders. I wouldn't have done it after the first season. I'm not doing it after this season. But it is certainly an interesting rabbit hole to dive down, is as our number 9 what if on the list. That is for ASU hoops. What if James Harden would have stayed for his junior season in Tempe as opposed to going to the league? Erik, we know the James Harden ASU jersey is maybe one of the best college jerseys that you could possibly own. Can you imagine getting the opportunity to have him sport that uni just for one more season?
Yeah, I think it's so funny to me because while James Harden is associated with Arizona State, like people remember that he went here. Of course, like locally, he's widely regarded as the best player, to come into Tempe, and clearly the one who had the most pro success for sure.
Easily.
But if he was around another year with, again, how he played when he stepped into the league, I mean, there's a chance that we're talking about, like, not just an Arizona State great, about an all-time college basketball great career, because I don't think people look at James Harden as one of those players that it's like, man, you're in the pantheon of college basketball players,
great
right?
Word.
He is. Thank you. I speak for a living. Sometimes I do well at it.
Yeah.
That was one of those times. Now I'm about to lose my train of thought and completely get off track with that. But like, he's not like, you don't think like, like Blake Griffin, who was the number 1 overall pick, right? You don't think about like the Mellos, the Durants, like, the Tyler Hansboroughs as well. Like these guys who it's like synonymous with having like one of the great college basketball seasons. There's a chance he's the number 1 pick in the next draft. There's a chance that he turns out to be one of the greatest individual seasons in like college basketball history. And doing that for Arizona State, that might have like an impact on this program that, as big of a one as he's had, especially with like, donating the money recently and whatnot, like that could have been a big launching point for that. And now as far as his NBA career goes, who knows if it starts out the same, considering like, that's also a crazy what if. OKC probably doesn't get him. They don't go to the finals. Who knows what happens to that young core? Like that changes so much, not just for ASU. Now I'm just fascinated. My brain's going everywhere. I'm fascinated.
I didn't know if you were going to walk yourself there or if I was going to have to bring that to your plate for you. Like that was like thinking about it, especially the recency, right, of seeing the whole SGA situation and how Oklahoma City has been able to build what they've built. Like imagine James Harden stays at Arizona State one more year. What that does to the dynamic of the NBA, like, is otherworldly when you think about it. Like even most recently, looking at SGA and how they were able to build this roster with the trades and the moves that they did years and years ago. Like it's fascinating.
Yeah, and so the 2010 draft, John Wall went number 1 to the Washington Wizards. Evan Turner went 2 to the 76ers. Derek Favors went 3 to the Nets. I mean, listen, if James Harden stayed at Arizona State for another year, right, and the bottom of the league stayed the bottom of the league because James Harden is in the Western Conference and by getting drafted by OKC, James Harden would have started his career either on the Washington Wizards, the Philadelphia 76ers, or the New Jersey Nets, meaning that he would have been in a completely different conference, completely different structure. And I do think there's a chance that he would have surpassed John Wall for the number 1 overall pick in that draft because he was 3 the year before.
Yeah.
So, that is fascinating. But for Arizona State specifically, as impactful as it is having a number 3 pick, having a number 1 pick and I have faith in James Harden having the career that he had going anywhere. a number one pick that would go on to be one of the greatest individual offensive talents the game has ever seen, and maybe the greatest offensive peak in NBA history. And I'll stand by that, and going number one might change how this basketball program's next decade and a half played out. Like, I don't think that that's an understatement.
No, I would 100% agree with you. And I don't even know, like, looking at this one, I don't know if this one stings for me as much as some of the other ones do on this list. This is more so just like another really interesting one to evaluate. Again, Arizona State fans, I think, would have loved to have James Harden in Tempe for another season, and there's no telling what the Sun Devils could have accomplished. But regardless, like, it played out the way that it did. The Sun Devils never really went anywhere in the NCAA tournament while Harden was here. Like, the program was what the program was, but it's certainly an interesting point of discussion to say the absolute least.
I mean, he went third in the draft in 2009, right? Yeah. Like, there's not a lot of complaints about James Harden's time. Obviously, like, team-wise, you wish there was more, but, like, this isn't a program that has based a lot of its, like, overall success based off of, like, how deep you get in the tournament.
No, yeah.
Right?
Regardless maybe that of if they should or not.
But nobody is like, wow, why did James Harden leave? But so, like, you're right. This doesn't sting, but it is, especially as, like, an NBA sicko, like, the literal history of basketball. I'm not even, like, the history of the game changes forever if James Harden goes back to Arizona State one more year.
Yeah, I think that's 100% valid. We do got to move it along to our number 8 what if on this list. This is one that stings a little bit, Rubus. And I'm interested to hear what you think about this one being number 8 as opposed to higher. What if ASU's defense got a stop on 4th and 13 in the Peach Bowl? We all saw the play. We all remember the moment. 4th and long, all-out blitz. Quinn Ewers over the top, touchdown, Texas. And really, I mean, you go back and forth. The rest of the game is kind of history at that point. But what if they got the stop, Erik?
They would have won.
They would have won the game.
They would have won the game. I think this is one that definitely had an argument to be higher. This is not the only Peach Bowl moment that we'll be talking about today. This is not the only heartbreaking moment deep in a college football season that we'll be talking about today.
Yeah.
But that was, honest to God, maybe the most heartbreaking individual moment that I've experienced as a sports fan. Because you were so close. Like, for me, like, obviously the Diamondbacks World Series a couple years ago, but, like, they were never on the precipice of winning it. The Suns finals in 2021, right? Like, they're up 2-0, but that was like a slow burn, like, rip your heart out, right? And you just saw it slip away from you. In the game, being that close to not capping off a miraculous season, but continuing a miraculous season, and to have Texas in a spot where they're in 4th and 13, and your defense has just played out of their minds to get you there, especially in that second half. I mean, who knows? Like, a lot of people assume that if they win that game, that they don't go on and win the next one. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. But if you beat Texas, who's to say that you can't keep going? And I mean, even without Jordan Tyson, I think that's a huge what if that could also would have made the list. There's a lot of what ifs that could have made the list today. But, like, what if Jordan Tyson didn't break his collarbone? Right? Like, I think that's a big one too. Like, for me, this is one of the more individually heartbreaking moments that I've ever experienced. And I think it's because it had so many good moments leading up to it and so much hope in that game. I think there's an argument for higher, but when we keep going down the list, I think all of them, it's like, you could probably argue that they could be higher.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument that any of these could be higher. Again, like, some of these have lasting effects. Some of these are just like individual moments. Some of the ones are like the previous 10 and 9 that we discussed, where it's like, these don't really hurt. They're more just interesting questions, right? This one does sting 100%, knowing, the outcome of that game. There are a lot of people that ultimately are like, okay, well, then you get stomped by Ohio State, and that's that. To your point, like, You never know. Nobody expected them to really be in that game against Texas in the first place. So to do what they did, certainly an accomplishment. The opportunity was there. You teased it a little bit. This is not going to be the only college football playoff, or it's not going to be the only moment from that 2024 season that we have on this what if list, because of course the biggest and best players, the biggest and best seasons always have the biggest and best what ifs. And I don't know if you snuck a peek at the list by any means, but number 7 on the list here of the biggest what ifs in Arizona State history, Erik, is what if Jordan Tyson didn't get hurt against Arizona? We know he got hurt in the fourth quarter of that game, ultimately a collarbone injury that required surgery, missed the Big 12 championship game, and missed the college football playoff. There is no doubt that Jordan Tyson would have had a monster impact on Arizona State's performance in the college football playoff.
Man, this one, we were at the game.
Yeah.
We were at the game when this happened. This is brutal. And obviously it would be more brutal if they didn't do so well afterwards. But, I mean, the way that we're all talking about Jordan Tyson right now, and rightfully so, you're basically saying, what if the team that had Texas on the brink of losing in the college football playoffs added a top 3 wide receiver in the country?
Yeah, literally. That's the point of conversation.
Listen, I love X-Guillory. I love Malik McClain. I love Shaman. Right. And I think that they stepped up such wonderfully. Melquan Stovall. None of them are Jordan Tyson. And we know that because that's how we're talking about it right now. It's the same as the 4th and 13. It's the same as some other ones that we'll talk about later today. This to me feels like maybe the most like tangible though. Because, how does that unlock Cam Scadaboo? Right? To have another, how does that unlock Sam Levitt, who had to run for his life in the Peach Bowl to have Jordan Tyson there? How does that unlock the rest of the offensive weapons? Can Malik McClain and Shimama Taylor and Xavier Guillory and Melquan Stovall, can they have a bigger impact as well? I mean, you're beating Iowa State by 60 if Jordan Tyson is in that game. It is one of those things where it sucks to hear, but then it also gets you excited about this season because you're like, well, knock on wood, in theory, he's going to be healthy. So, it sucks. I mean, it sucks, but I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, what if they had their second best player back for a college football playoff run? Probably would help.
I mean, this was certainly the easiest to avoid, right? In terms of this what if conversation, is if Jordan Tyson doesn't play that fourth quarter, then ultimately he doesn't get hurt and he plays in that Big 12 championship game. He plays in the college football playoff game. Now, again, you don't know how, we'd like to think that it has a positive impact. We believe it would have a positive impact, but you never know, right? You never know with momentum and the way that certain players are playing regardless, right? But still, at the end of the day, Jordan Tyson certainly helps that Arizona State team in the Big 12 championship game. Certainly helps them in the college football playoff as well. And who knows, maybe at that point, because you got to, again, take a look at the fact that Arizona State got the 4 seed in that college football playoff. Is there a point where we have the conversation of okay, well, the committee said Jordan Tyson was out. What, did they put him at 4 instead of 3 for a reason, right? Is there a world where Arizona State just completely dominates Iowa State to the point where it's okay, Boise State doesn't really deserve that 3 spot. Maybe it's Arizona State that should get to play in the Fiesta Bowl, which, then we're talking about a whole different,
dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you're playing Penn State, right? It's completely different.
At home.
So, at home, pretty much. Yeah. So it's an entirely different conversation. It's an interesting one to say the least, but we have plenty more what ifs on the other side of this quick break. Look, I don't know if you guys are active on social media. I sure hope you are. But if you are and you follow us here at PHNX Sports, then you see that a bunch of us here have been doing little staycations at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. My good buddy, Erik Ruby, he did a staycation. Derek Montilla did a staycation. Bo Brock did a staycation. Emma Spots did a staycation. Everybody here is staying at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Wild Horse Pass specifically is my absolute favorite. The vibes over there are great. The pool, the steakhouse, the BetMGM Sportsbook that they have over there where you guys can watch all of the action. There's a big UFC card this weekend. Go out to Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Enjoy the vibes. Enjoy the fights. Make some money while you're there. Enjoy a steak dinner. They got everything that you could possibly need over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. And something that you always have to remember is you do you at Gila River Resorts Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
Oh, you know me. If you're following me on social, I'm at Gila. But if you've been listening to the shows, you know that I bleed DFCU blue. Of course, I'm talking about Desert Financial Credit Union, but it's not just me. It's the Ruby family. For generations, we've been using Desert Financial Credit Union because there is no better place to do your banking, not just if you're an Arizona sports fan, but just if you live in Arizona. For more than 84 years, it's been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that just make life better. And you know what, Erik? You're saying, Erik, what the heck? How could they be helping me? It's just a credit union, right? Well, how about $200? That sound nice?
200
I think
bones?
it sounds nice. $200. And guess what? This isn't like a promotion that goes like 5 days. They've been doing this since before I got at this damn company. $200. When you open a free checking account online, get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200 today.
Just to recap some of the biggest what ifs in Arizona State history that we've gone through so far, whether they hurt, whether they're awesome, or whether they're somewhere in between. We had what if ASU had hired Deion Sanders instead of Kenny Dillingham, coming in at number 10. At number 9, what if James Harden stayed for his junior season in Tempe? Number 8, what if ASU's defense got a stop on 4th and 13 in the Peach Bowl? Number 7, what if Jordan Tyson didn't get hurt against Arizona? And coming in at number 6, Erik, what if ASU joined the Big Ten in the 1990s? Now, there were rumors of Arizona State joining the Big Ten in the early to mid 1990s. We know now Arizona State in the Big 12, what they've been able to accomplish. But man, would it have been interesting if the Sun Devils would have ultimately moved to the Big Ten for a number of reasons. You throw out that Pac-12 success, you throw out a Big 12 championship more than likely down the line. We're talking about Arizona State playing teams like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Indiana, Nebraska, year over year. It certainly would have been interesting, Rubus.
Quite literally changes everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you're changing fundamentally the history of your football program, right?
Of every
and
sports program.
Yeah. Like what? You're right. Yeah. And I know we're just looking at football, but you're right. Like, listen, the Pac-12 was a great conference. Right. It was a great conference. And obviously the end of it is just tragic. Right. And the Big 12 is a great conference. And it's hard not just to look at football, but when you look at football, it's like it's the SEC and it's the Big Ten. Yeah. Right. Like right now, think about the revenue sharing. Think about the stage that those teams are on. And if Arizona State can get let's just say even with this what if that not everything changes. Let's say that they still able to get, Jake Plummer. They're still able to get the kind of success that they had in the late 1990s. Right. On a Big Ten level, that propels this program to be, like you said, playing these national powerhouses, these programs that are just synonymous with college football, to have that type of success as well on that level, and then to bring that into the 2000s and the 2010s and the 2020s. Not like they're always going to be good, but man, like the floor of this program probably goes through the roof.
Yeah.
If you're getting Big Ten eyes,
the floor
and Big
goes
Ten
through
funding.
the roof. That's a crazy way
Shout
to
out
put
to
it,
Empire
man.
Today.
Yeah, shout out to Empire
but
Today.
I think that it's hard not to just look at football, but overall in general, like every single sport, like, the Big Ten eyes and the Big Ten money, that's going to spread out, man. So this is something to where you wonder, like a lot of people, to Matt Berry's chagrin, call Arizona State like a sleeping giant, right? Like, does being in the Big Ten elevate that sleeping giant to more consistency, like overall in the 90s, in the 2000s, in the 2010s, and do these low moments of this program or the inability to be a powerhouse, like, does that go away with the resources that would be around them in this conference?
It's certainly an interesting, again, point of conversation. I don't think for me this one stings at all. This is, again, just like you said, it changes a lot. Now, there are a number of reasons why Arizona State didn't join the Big Ten, starting with the biggest one. There's no public record of ASU's leadership actually pushing to leave the Pac-10 at the time. Also, the Big Ten actually never offered Arizona State. These were just rumors. It was speculation. And again, ASU wasn't necessarily aligned with what Big Ten's academic criteria was, especially in the 1990s. ASU has come a long way, but at that specific time, the Sun Devils weren't necessarily at the top of the classroom when it came to athletics. But it is certainly an interesting point of conversation, especially given what we've seen in college athletics with conference realignment, specifically as of late. But moving on to number 5, another really interesting one here. What if Todd Graham had been given more time? This is a guy that led the Arizona State program for a handful of seasons, back-to-back 10-win seasons at a point in time. It felt like everything was going pretty smooth in Tempe under Todd Graham for some time. And then the floor kind of just gave out. Erik, we talked to Todd Graham before the start of last season. And this is a guy that still to this day feels like he has a love for Arizona State.
He kept on saying us.
Yeah. As he was working as an analyst for TCU?
Yeah, I think it was like an offensive analyst for TCU. He's literally there in Texas, and he's talking about us for Tempe. But we'll get to another what if about after this later, but like, you're not getting Kenny Dillingham most likely, right? Like there was a specific series of events that leads to that. And I really liked Todd Graham. I really liked Todd Graham. Now, and this is embarrassing for me, and we'll talk about this more later. Like I was in on the Herm stuff when that happened, but I don't know
on the scandal?
Yes.
You said the Herm stuff, so I just figured that.
Hiring the Herm train, choo-choo. Your boy was the conductor.
There you go.
Okay. I was also young and impressionable. But
oh no,
man, I want to think about this in a positive light, but I think you have to acknowledge like both sides of it.
Yeah.
Where if he was given more time, there's a chance that the program doesn't do anything. He just gets fired 2 years later, right? Yeah. Like, giving more time doesn't necessarily mean that like he'll do better.
What do you think though? What do you think? Do you think ultimately like this program continues to be rising, or do you think it ultimately kind of fails?
Fails is, it's probably a middle ground, right? I mean, fails is so tough. I don't think it fails. He's a good coach. His coaching tree is insane. Like he was a good evaluator. Like, I think he had some trouble recruiting and getting some top shelf talent. I don't know if he would have been the best head coach for the new era of college football. So I don't think that it's like if Todd Graham had been given 2 more years to prove himself that he would have been good enough to be like, let's keep you on through everything that then happens, from 2020 and beyond, right? So I think realistically, he's still a good coach for this team. I think that they compete. I don't think they get nearly as bad as they did during the end of the Herm Edwards era. But at the end of the day, I do think Arizona State moves on from him as at least a head coach to move into a younger direction that can push themselves in the new era of college football. But honestly, he might have stuck around. I mean, how much he loves this place. It might have been a retirement, right? Yeah. And there is a chance that he goes down as like, this is when you think of Arizona State football, like you think of Todd Graham, right? So I think that's on the table, even if he didn't hit those heights. But what do you think? Do you feel like it would have ended well for him if he was given, like, let's say 2 years to prove himself? What happens after that?
I mean, I think, and this is tough, right? The whole ending well and not, because it's like dating. In reality, it's like coaching sports. It's like you either get married and you win a bunch of championships, or you break up. And in football or basketball, whatever, you get fired, right? It goes one of two ways. I think Todd Graham would have continued to find success at Arizona State. Maybe not 10-win after a 10-win season type of success. I could have seen this program be chilling at 8-4, 9-3, 7-5 at worst for a while. I could have 100% seen that. But I 100% agree with you that I think there ultimately would have been a change when the new era of college football began, where it's like, okay, NIL is here. Okay, transfer portal, everybody can transfer every year with no restrictions, right? Like I conference realignment. Like I think Arizona State would have ultimately moved into a younger generation of coaching, and tried to follow what the rest of the nation was doing or try and pave that road. So I think it would have been successful for that point of time. But at the end of the day, I think, again, like I said, most relationships, you are either together till the end or eventually you come to an end. And I think that would have been the case.
Yeah, usually you end up getting fired. Like most head coaches end up getting fired. That's just how it goes. It's very rare that you walk away on your own terms.
Well, look, we are just one away from getting into our top 3, and we're going to stay on the gridiron here, Rubus. This one is post Todd Graham. What if Jaden Daniels never transferred to LSU? Ultimately, Jaden Daniels won a Heisman Trophy with the LSU Tigers. We know Jaden Daniels is a just phenomenal quarterback as it stands after his rookie season with the Washington Commanders. People have him already as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Regardless of what you think, like, this is a guy that, I mean, we all saw the potential. Now imagine if he didn't leave.
Man, I think he still would have been really damn good. I don't think there is any way that he hits the ceiling that he hits at LSU if he stays at Arizona State.
Agreed.
Especially when you look at how his off-field preparation changed when he got to LSU and that technology that he had been using at LSU to take that next step. He would not have been a Heisman here.
No.
He wouldn't have been.
Agreed. I agree with you.
He would have been a really good quarterback, though. But you talk about how James Harden changes the chemistry of the NBA and everything. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is only one season in to his NFL career. Changes everything, right? I mean, it changes one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen in NFL history. Who knows where he even gets drafted, right? Who knows what team he goes to? And honestly, at Arizona State, you're sticking around for, like something that's probably not going to be that great.
I mean, well, what if he did? Honestly, like, what if he did have a great season at Arizona State that following year, right? Like, I think that's another thing that we talk about. Again, just analyzing every aspect of the what if conversation here. Like, he has a great season at Arizona State, and then what, right? Then is there a new like transfer quarterback coming in after that? Is there a young recruit that wanted to be here while Daniels was here? What does Jaden Daniels staying in Tempe mean for Herm Edwards, right? Does he get a longer leash? Because ultimately, they only really fired him and got rid of him at that point because they lost to Eastern Michigan and they were ass. But, like, what if he's here, they put together a 7-8 win season, and then we're going into the next year with Herm Edwards at the helm? Talk about missing out on Kenny Dillingham, missing out on Sam Levitt, missing out on Cam Scatterbo, right? Like, who knows? Would you have risked Jaden Daniels staying here for one more year if it meant, then guess what? You have Herm Edwards still as your head coach?
Well, right. I mean, all these what ifs for ASU football, especially the ones that suck, it's like, you look at where we are now, like, I wouldn't trade in a damn single one.
So would you, I guess, an honest question.
Would I bring it back?
Let's assume that you have the season that LSU had. I believe it was a 7-5 season at that time, maybe 8-4. They had a really solid year, and he won the Heisman Trophy. Is that like? And then you go into the following year with Herm Edwards as your head coach. Do you trade that? You trade what Jaden Daniels did at LSU and have it be done in Tempe, but you keep Herm ultimately missing out on Kenny Dillingham this cycle.
So you get a Heisman, but you don't really get the team success. Right. And you know what? Having a Heisman for this program would be great. Having a Kenny Dillingham for this program is better.
Yeah.
Like you're trading one season of an individual player's success for what we believe to be a guy who is building this program to compete for the next decade plus. Right. And those are lofty expectations, but that's where we feel like we're at. Unless it involves reaching higher heights than what Arizona State as a team reached last year, then I'm not trading anything for Kenny Dillingham.
Anything.
Like, we'll talk about some earlier seasons upcoming here in a second. Maybe I would trade that, right? Because what that does for your program is crazy. But like Jaden Daniels being around, Todd Graham being around, even if it results in a good season, if it leads to you holding on to Herm Edwards for another year or two, we know, listen, Jaden Daniels could be good. Herm Edwards was going to screw this program over no matter what type of talent he had
at that time. He was just doing it behind closed doors.
Like that's what I'm saying is like, we talk about how terrible of a position this program was. It would just be a part of the conversation of, and they had a Heisman winning quarterback before, and then look at where they went to. It doesn't change the lows. They don't not give you the sanctions because you want a Heisman. Well, there was a guy there. Right. And guess what? That doesn't help your program because now everybody's talking about how you only had that individual player success because you cheated.
Yeah.
Like Herm Edwards is going to screw this program over. Herm Edwards might be the worst thing to ever happen to this program. Point blank, period.
I don't think it is. It might have. I think it is. In all honesty, like I think it might be the worst thing.
You don't trade an individual player season for that. You just don't. And the reality is he's not winning the damn Heisman if he's here anyway, because Herm Edwards is here. And the team's going to be so bad because they're going to get penalized every other play that it won't be good enough for him to be on the map for that. And the scheme won't be good enough for him to take advantage of that. And honestly, where LSU's program was as far as off-field training capabilities and the VR stuff that Jaden Daniels used, he wasn't going to get that here. You're not getting that Jaden Daniels if he's here, like at all. This is the biggest what if here is Jaden Daniels' career is completely off the rails if he stays at Arizona State. And I'm not afraid to say that he would have screwed his future over by staying here.
By staying in Tempe.
Yes. And it's not his fault and it's not Tempe's fault. It's the guy that they had as the head coach. It was Herm's fault. And at the end of the day, like, you know, you don't get Kenny Dillingham. Jaden Daniels is not going to be as good. You're still going to be hit with sanctions. And then you're in the hiring cycle the next offseason. Who's the best coach that got, like, Herm will survive one more season, if less, because he's going to still be fired. And you're going to miss out on Kenny Dillingham? Like, there's nothing. There's no individual player accomplishment. Hell, I don't even know what team accomplishment that would want me to avoid getting Kenny Dillingham at this point. That's how high I am about the future of this program.
It would have to be a national championship.
Yeah, which is not happening.
Yeah. Look, guys, we're going to get into our top 3 biggest what ifs in Arizona State Sun Devil sports history on the other side of this quick break.
Oh, I love telling you how lazy I am, but I will avoid it this time because it's not just about being lazy and using your smart thermostat. In fact, you know, it's the opposite of being lazy.
It's about being smart.
Proactive. Exactly. It's about being proactive. Right? Because you don't want to be paying out your wazoo for energy bills when you're spending a ton of money to heat and cool your home, but especially cool your home here in the summer. And for every 1 degree that you can raise your thermostat, you can save 2 to 3% on your energy bill. That adds up over time. And any money that you can save nowadays is good money to have around. And sometimes you're busy like me, or you're forgetful like me, and you forget to turn your thermostat up, or you realize like, man, this is a good time for me to turn my thermostat up because of off usage hours, the energy costs less, whatever it might be. That's where the smart thermostat comes in. You could change the thermostat from any device that you have, even if you're away from home. And right now, APS customers may be eligible for smart thermostats for as low as $0 when you enroll in the APS Cool Rewards program. If you already have a smart thermostat at home, like me, see if it's eligible to enroll in Cool Rewards, plus free install is available at marketplace.aps.com. You must be an APS customer and pay shipping and taxes. Other restrictions apply. Go to marketplace.aps.com for more information.
Look, there are 2 things I love, okay? Free things and being a member of things. In Circle K, well, you got the best of both worlds because you guys can be an Inner Circle member totally for free. All you got to do is go to the App Store, download the app, and your email, phone number, boom, bada bing, like that. That's it. You're an Inner Circle member, and you're going to start saving money every time you pull up to the pump. And I mean literally every single time you pull up to the pump. Type in your digits. First 5 times, you're going to save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Every single day after that, you guys are going to save 3 cents per gallon. Not to mention there are random inner circle fuel days that we'll tell you about here where you could save 30, 40, sometimes 50 cents per gallon. Goes a long way when you fill up your tank in this heat. Again, make sure you join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. Again, we appreciate everybody hopping on this special edition of the PHNX Sun Devil show with the biggest what ifs in Arizona State sports history. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Again, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Also in the chat, I'd love to hear right now what you guys feel are the biggest what ifs in Arizona State sports history. Again, doesn't have to be specific to ASU football or ASU basketball. Let's just hear your biggest what ifs while we dive into number 3. We've officially hit the top 3 of our list, Erik. And here we are, the worst thing ever to happen to Arizona State. What if ASU never hired Herm Edwards? We know the sanctions. We know the trouble. We know all of it. At this point in time, what happened when ASU hired Herm? You don't get the violations. It's interesting to think about how this could have impacted, again, Arizona State's chances of hiring Kenny Dillingham, because if you don't hire Herm, who do you hire? Is that person maybe a little bit more successful than Herm was? Do they stay longer? Do you miss out on that window? And then also, what about Ray Anderson, right? A lot of the issues with Ray were handcuffed to Herm. So if that coach comes in and has a decent year, decent couple years, are we still talking about Ray Anderson as the athletic director in Tempe? It's a lot, man. It's a lot to think about in reality, how every single cause has about 1 million effects.
Look, you don't get to Kenny Dillingham without Herm Edwards.
There it is. Clip it.
You
It's
don't.
the truth. It's the truth.
You don't. You don't get to your college football playoff season without going 3-9 the year before. Like, I don't want Herm Edwards to be a part of ASU history. I hated that as much as everybody else. But if you didn't hire Herm Edwards, you would not have gotten Kenny Dillingham. And so I asked myself, would I have avoided hiring Herm Edwards? I don't know if the answer is no.
It's a really interesting question.
Yeah, you don't go through what you went through. You don't get hit with the sanctions. But then what? Who do you hire? Right? Who are you going for? You're moving on from Todd Graham. You're not going to hire Herm Edwards. What do you do?
Yeah.
You hire a regular coach that's not going to suck? Okay, that's great. Are they good? Are they good for building in Tempe? Are they good enough to maintain for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years? You know, if you asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have said, if I could go back in time and stop ASU from hiring Herm Edwards, I would.
You'd do anything.
But now I don't think I would.
I wouldn't either. I'll be totally honest. I would not stop that.
Crazy.
It is, but
Crazy when you
and that
think
should
about
tell
it.
you again how we feel about Kenny Dillingham and this staff and the players on this team currently. Like, you're in a rare spot. Arizona State is in a rare spot where they have a coach that is really, really good at what he does, and they have a staff and players that are committed to the vision, and they're committed to doing it here. That's rare in college football. So you're telling me that you give all that up, lots of expected long-term success, decades maybe, for what? For a coach that was here for a handful of seasons that ultimately lit this program on fire into NCAA violations, recruiting scandals, all sorts of stuff, to the point where some of these guys that were on this Arizona State roster will never coach in college football ever again because of those penalties. You're telling me we accept that, we take that on the chin, and we go through those seasons even knowing what comes out of it just to get Kenny Dillingham at the end of the party? Yeah, I take it. I absolutely take it 10 times out of 10. That's like, again, and I keep using the dating examples, right? That's like saying if you could go back and be like, if I could not have this specific X, right? Just because it was so horrible, and then you wind up with one that you have no idea with. Or you could say, you know what? I'll deal with the horrible X because I know what's on the other side of it way down the road. You're like, yeah, I'll take that 10 times out of 10. This is the same case. It's just football terms.
Yeah, it's so funny to me that I'm like, yep, yeah, hire Herm Edwards. Yep.
I'll sign it too. I'll sign it there. I'll sign the contract myself if I have to.
Dude, I remember when they were like parading him around campus. I was a freshman, not to make people feel old. And they brought him they brought him to Cronkite, and they're doing like this like Q&A with him. And 18-year-old Erik is just like, this dude rocks. Like this program's gonna be great. Like I see how he could get talent in the door, and he did. Like
he just couldn't use it.
And like the idea of it was good, right?
Which part?
The pipeline to the NFL part. Like the idea of it was good. The
always thought it was stupid
as
hell, because that's like, you know what the biggest like selling point of, hey, we're doing a pipeline to the NFL? It's just straight up sending guys to the NFL. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State, LSU, Texas, Texas A&M, they all do it. They all send players every year by the boatload to the NFL. And what, ASU magically, because they had a bad head coach? Like, Herm wasn't a good coach in the league, right? So, like, to think that he was going to come here and just because he has NFL ties and he's bringing in guys that have had NFL success, like, ultimately that's going to make a giant difference. I think it was crazy. Like, in all honesty, like, your selling point, like, think about that, though. Like, that was the selling point. The selling point was, we're going to get guys to the NFL, right? You should come here. We're getting guys to the NFL. If I'm a high schooler, why am I believing you when I can just go to a school that already sends guys to the NFL and I don't have to, like, bank on you being able to do it? I could just go to somebody that already has done it and proven it.
Sure. No, I'm listen, I was 18, so it worked on me. Right.
Eric's like, yeah, pipeline to the NFL.
Ooh, coach, can I come kick for the team?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know. That's enough Herm Edwards talk for me.
That's fair. That's fair. We're going to go even further back than Herm Edwards for number 2 on our list of the greatest what-ifs in Arizona State sports history. What if ASU's defense didn't give up a last-minute touchdown in the Rose Bowl against Ohio State? Now, there are a couple different ways that you can look at this. I mean, first and foremost, the history of ASU football looks completely different if we're talking about Arizona State getting this Rose Bowl dub over the Buckeyes. It certainly would have solidified this as the best season in Arizona State history. And maybe the biggest what-if part of this whole thing, Erik, is Arizona State at this point stays undefeated. We're likely talking about the Sun Devils being crowned national champions, undefeated national champions.
There's a cynic in me that says it changes a lot for the next couple of years, but long term, we still end up around where we are right now, like winning a national championship and doing all that. That year doesn't, usually would not impact what goes on like in 2010s to the 2020s. But then there's the other side of it, which is this has always been a great place to be. This has always been a place that has had football semi on the map. Arizona State had been Arizona's team when it comes to football.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if this propels them through the 2000s, through the 2010s, into the 2020s, and gives them that jolt that raises their floor significantly. I think there is a chance that if they do that, they're undefeated, they're national champions. If they can then capitalize off the momentum of that they turn into one of those teams that Kenny Dillingham talks about now as these are the teams that put themselves on the map.
Yeah.
Right? I think that is certainly on the table. At the same time, though, the reason why this is so high is just for the individual season. Right? You cap off one of the greatest seasons you've ever seen with some of the greatest players you've ever seen. You already talk about how fondly so many of the big-time stars from that team was and how many fans loved that season. It just gets better, right? So That's the bigger part of the what if, but I do wonder if that domino effect ends up being severe to the point where the literal fabric of this program and the heights that they reach for the next 30 years to where we are right now completely alters.
It does. It does completely change, right? Think about some of the previous teams in the modern era of college sports and specifically college football that we talk about just based off of a national championship appearance, right? Like, think about the way that we talk about Washington and the way that they were able to do what they accomplished just going and playing Michigan in the national championship a few years ago. They didn't win. Of course, they lost their coach. Say what you want about it. But still, like, that program now is in a different realm and a different tier of college athletics because they went to a national championship in college football. The same can be said about what TCU did. Out of nowhere, making the national championship game, regardless of them getting their doors kicked in by Georgia, they still went to the national championship. And now we're sitting here saying that if ASU were to beat Ohio State, okay, the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Rose Bowl and remain undefeated, that they would have likely been crowned national champions. That statement alone just carries so much weight. There is a reason that this is number 2. I think it had a very clear argument to potentially be number 1 on this list as well. Like you said, it completely changes the framework and the dynamic of Arizona State football for 2 to 3 decades.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And you look at some of the heights that this program has reached since then and how good some of these teams have been. It's like, do they just get that extra bump? What about fan buy-in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know that when this team is good, the fan turnout is incredible. But even, Graham Rossini saying it now, talking about that Kansas game, about they had a full Mountain America Stadium in the fourth quarter, which is rare. Arizona State notoriously has a fair weather fan base. Now, there are some incredibly loyal diehard fans, and a lot of those are here with us, and some of them have yet to find us, and they will eventually. And I don't want to discredit them because they are there through thick and thin, season ticket holders, going to Camp T, showing up to all the sporting events, even when this team sucks. And there's absolutely a big, large portion of those. That being said, winning a national championship, putting yourself on the map in that way, unlocks a much deeper casual fan base. And I wonder if Arizona State has the influx of money and attention that comes from raising their floor from a casual fan base, if that then propels them to the next level for the next decade. And if you could sustain a decade of success into the 2000s as college football continues to become this powerhouse, and what type of investment and infrastructure that you can build for the future of this program. I mean, it is a massive domino effect of, can this program then become one that is dominant in the Pac-12? Are you the next Oregon, right? Are you the next one that you're looking at? Are you a Utah? Yeah. Right, where now in the 2000s, then the 2010s, and the 2020s, it's like Arizona State is going to be a top 4 team in this conference no matter what. Right. And they're going to be a top 10 team in the country. And even their dips, even their low points aren't nearly as low. Now, maybe the impact only spans a couple years and you got a good run and then that kind of peters out. That's certainly on the table. But you can't underrate the aspect of what this does as far as unlocking the next couple of years. And the same way that we look at Arizona State this year and say this season's much more important than last year, because it's, hey, how are you going to follow that up? Let's say they win the national championship, right? Let's say they win the Rose Bowl. Let's say they do that. And then next year they go out there and they dominate again. And maybe it's not a national championship, but you're in contention. Maybe you don't win the Rose Bowl, but you're in contention and you are another dominant team in college football. And then let's say next year you do it again, right? At that point, you are starting to get this ball rolling, and you might start an avalanche of Arizona State is not a sleeping giant. They're an awake giant, and they are here in players in college football. And with all the great things that we talk about Tempe and Arizona State outside of it, I don't think it's far-fetched to believe that maybe that turns Arizona State into a powerhouse, capital P powerhouse, because you never know. Nobody would have thought Oregon was that. Nobody would have thought Clemson was that. I don't think it's insane to say maybe it's Arizona State in that conversation if they not only win this Rose Bowl, and they go on and win a national championship and be crowned the national championship, but also if they follow up with great seasons beyond that, I mean, talk about a floor raiser and a ceiling raiser to the max.
It's 100% a valid argument. And I think it is, again, one of the biggest what ifs, not just in Arizona State history, but in Arizona sports history, point blank, period. But it's not number one on our list. Coming in at number one on the biggest what ifs in Arizona State Sun Devil history is Erik. It's a moment that we were there for. What if targeting was called in the Peach Bowl against Texas? Now, this is a moment that is definitely a lot higher than what if the defense got a stop in 4th and 13. Because, Erik, for me, this feels tangible, right? The defensive thing, it was a call that was made by the coaches. The players played it out, how it went, whatever. That's a little bit different. For me, this is a realistic, tangible thing that could have happened. And in reality, Erik, it should have happened. It looked like targeting. It felt like targeting. Like, I mean, it was targeting, right? Like, if it sounds like a duck, if it walks like a duck, guess what, Erik? It's a duck. And that's exactly what this was. Obviously, it's not a guarantee ASU marches down the field and wins the game. But this is a team in ASU. Their offense had gone 150 plus yards and scored 2 touchdowns in 13 plays leading up to this final drive. They had all the momentum in that second half. And there was a real chance that if they go down and win that game, then similar to the last argument that we had about the CFP and what if the defense gets a stop, we're talking about Arizona State being a win away from playing in the national championship game.
Soul crushing.
Yeah.
It was targeting. It was targeting. And like you said, it's like the only thing on this list that's really out of the control minus the Jordan Tyson injury.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything else was a tangible decision, right? Or on the field, the lack of execution. This is the only thing that was completely out of their control. And if you're watching that game, you know that it changed. And you know that it slipped away from Arizona State, not at that 4th and 13, even though it was in their control. And
Before
that's still
that,
a
we
big
don't get to the
what if.
4th and 13.
No,
if this
that's
gets
not
called
there.
targeting.
I mean, Texas won on the thinnest of margins. And you have to give them credit. Like, they played the game and they won. They are not the ones who made that call.
No.
Right? And they'll show all these different other plays like, oh, well, Arizona State should have been called for this and for that. Okay. So you're telling me the ref impacts the game.
Yeah.
Like, you're agreeing with my point, right? And I'm not saying that it's like Arizona State was the victim of the only bad call in that game, but certainly the most individually impactful moment controlled by the referees that season.
Hands down.
And possibly even beyond that. And when you look at all the other things that we had talked about today with that team specifically, you know, I think that obviously they have a better chance of moving on with Jordan Tyson. But without Jordan Tyson, they were on the brink of beating Texas, and a referee basically had to stop them from doing it. We could talk about the domino effects of this for literal hours, but I think it's clear. Arizona State wins the Peach Bowl. They continue to be absolute national darlings the way that they were leading up to it. And the hype going into this season is tenfold of what they're getting now if they go on and they beat Texas. And if they go into this season, which is, again, like, this is the biggest what if, like, how do you follow that up? They can turn into that team that has arrived in college football. Soul crushing from an individual perspective, soul crushing from a fan perspective, soul crushing from a team perspective, especially because it's out of its control. I think it's a good pick for number one because it sucked that much.
Yeah, it was by far and away, the most devastating moment in sports for Arizona State fans. It feels like, because it was right there. It's right there in front of you. It was like, I'm seeing it, you're seeing it. The only people in the world that aren't seeing that that's targeting is the people that ultimately had the opportunity to make that call and to make that decision. That is our top 10 list of the biggest what ifs in Arizona State Sun Devil sports history. Again, let us know in the chat what you think the number one what if in Sun Devil history is. And we appreciate everybody hopping in on this special episode of the PHNX Sun Devils show. If you enjoyed today's content, give the show a follow on social at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You can follow Professor Oates at Erik Ruby. That is Erik with a K on social. You can follow the Woolly Mammoth at something, somewhere, sometimes, anywhere. And guys,
he's probably following you.
Probably. Yeah, probably is following you. You should look into that. Guys, we'll see you Wednesday. But in the meantime, go Devils in peace.
We all silly like the mayor.